You are an embarrassment to this hospital. I will make sure you never practice medicine again.
You don't belong here. The words sliced through the surgical ward like a blade. Dr. Nadia Okonkwo's hands froze mid-stitch as the Korean woman in designer clothes stormed toward her, eyes blazing with contempt. But before Nadia could respond, the doors burst open. 6 men in black suits flooded the room, and at their center stood Him Kang Min Ho, the man whose face decorated wanted posters across 3 continents, the ghost of Seoul's underworld. His eyes locked onto Nadia's, and something impossible shifted in his chest. Something that felt terrifyingly like recognition, like fate, like the beginning of an obsession that would burn down everything he'd built. Because Min Ho had just found the woman who'd saved his dying brother's life, and he would never, ever let her go. If you're ready for a story that's going to have you holding your breath, falling in love, and questioning everything you thought you knew about destiny, then settle in, gorgeous souls. Hit that subscribe button right now, because this journey is about to change you. Let's dive in. The fluorescent lights of Seoul Metropolitan Hospital buzzed overhead as Nadia completed her 18th hour on shift. Her scrubs were wrinkled, her natural hair pulled back in a protective style, and exhaustion lined her beautiful dark features. But her hands remained steady. They always did. She'd fought too hard to get here medical school in Chicago, her residency in London, and now a prestigious fellowship in one of Asia's most advanced cardiac units. Every step had been a battle. Every achievement earned twice over. The patient on her table coded again. "Charging to 200, she commanded, her voice cutting through the chaos. The nurses moved in synchronized precision around her. This was her domain, her kingdom, and she ruled it with quiet, unshakable competence. Clear! The young man's body arched off the table. The monitor flatlined for 3 agonizing seconds before a rhythm returned weak, but present. "He's back," Nadia breathed. "Let's close him up." 2 hours later, she emerged from surgery, peeling off her gloves. The patient would live. Another victory in a war she fought daily against death itself. That's when she heard it. What is she still doing here? Nadia turned slowly. A woman in her 60s stood at the nurse's station, draped in Chanel, her face twisted with disgust. Mrs. Kang Soo-yeon, the patient's mother. "Excuse me?" "You heard me." Mrs. Kang stepped closer, her heels clicking against the linoleum. "I specifically requested a Korean surgeon for my son, not some foreigner who doesn't understand our ways." The nurses fell silent. Nadia felt their eyes on her, felt the familiar weight of being judged, diminished, reduced to her skin color rather than her skill. "Mrs. Kang, I just spent 7 hours saving your son's life. His cardiac valve was... I don't care what you did." Mrs. Kang's voice rose. "You don't belong here. This is a Korean hospital. Korean patients deserve Korean doctors, not someone who probably got her degree from some third-world country." Nadia's jaw tightened. "I graduated top of my class from Northwestern University. I completed my residency at... I want you removed from my son's case immediately." "Mrs. Kang, do you know who I am?" The older woman's face contorted with rage. "Do you know who my family is? One phone call and you'll never practice medicine in this country again. You'll be deported back to wherever you came from. You don't belong here." The words echoed through the corridor. Nadia stood frozen, years of microaggressions and outright racism crashing over her like a wave. She'd handled worse. She'd survived worse. But something about this moment, this public humiliation after she'd just fought death itself, it cracked something inside her. She opened her mouth to respond. The elevator doors opened. 6 men in black suits emerged first, their movements precise, their eyes scanning every corner of the ward. Then he appeared. Kang Min Ho moved like shadows given form. Tall, devastatingly handsome, with sharp features that could have been carved from marble. His black hair was swept back from a face that showed no emotion, but his eyes dark, bottomless, dangerous burned with an intensity that stopped Nadia's breath in her throat. He wore a suit that cost more than her annual salary. A thin scar ran along his jawline, and when his gaze landed on her, she felt it like a physical touch. "Mother." His voice was deep, controlled. "What's happening here?" Mrs. Kang immediately softened, rushing to her eldest son. "Min Ho, thank goodness you're here. This woman, this foreigner, she operated on Ti-yoon without authorization. I want her removed. I want her license revoked. She saved his life." The words fell like stones into still water. Mrs. Kang blinked. "What?" Min Ho's eyes never left Nadia's face. "I've been monitoring Ti-yoon's surgery from my car. Dr. Okonkwo performed a procedure that 3 other surgeons in this hospital refused to attempt. His survival rate was 11%. She raised it to 67. Nadia's heart pounded. How did he know her name? How had he been monitoring the surgery? But Minho, you will apologize. The temperature in the corridor dropped 10 degrees. Mrs. Kang's face went pale. I will not, you will apologize to Dr. Okonkwo. Minho's voice remained calm, but something terrifying moved beneath the surface. You will apologize for questioning her competence. You will apologize for your racist remarks. And you will do it now, Mother. Or I will ensure that every charity board you sit on, every social club you attend, every friend you have receives detailed documentation of this conversation. Silence stretched like a rubber band about to snap. Mrs. Kang's lips trembled. Then, with visible effort, she turned to Nadia. I apologize. For what specifically? Minho's eyes finally moved to his mother, and Nadia saw at the ice beneath his composure the danger that clung to him like cologne. This was not a man who made empty threats. For questioning your abilities, Mrs. Kang whispered. And for my inappropriate comments. Nadia nodded slowly. Your son will need 6 weeks of recovery and a strict cardiac rehabilitation program. I'll have my team prepare the details. She turned to walk away, her hands shaking with suppressed emotion. Dr. Okonkwo. She stopped but didn't turn. Thank you. Minho's voice had changed softer now, almost vulnerable, for saving my brother. Nadia walked away without responding. But she felt his eyes on her back all the way to the end of the corridor, and something in her chest, something she'd buried long ago, began to stir. Later that night, Nadia sat alone in the hospital cafeteria, her hands wrapped around a cup of cold coffee. The encounter played on a loop in her mind. Not the racism she'd learned to let that slide off her like water, but him, those eyes, the way he'd defended her without hesitation, without knowing her. The chair across from her scraped against the floor. She looked up. Minho sat down, having appeared from nowhere, his presence filling the empty cafeteria with electricity. You shouldn't be in this section, she said. Family waiting area is on the 3rd floor. I know where it is. Then why are you here? He studied her with an intensity that made her skin tingle. I wanted to thank you properly, away from my mother. You already thanked me. That was for her benefit. He leaned forward slightly. This is for mine. Nadia's breath caught. Up close, he was even more striking and more dangerous. His presence radiated power, control, and something darker she couldn't name. I've read your file, he continued. That's illegal. I own 3 members of this hospital's board. A ghost of a smile crossed his lips. Nothing here is illegal for me. Is that supposed to impress me? No. His smile faded. Your record is supposed to impress me. And it does. Northwestern valedictorian. Youngest fellow in this hospital's history. 37 successful cardiac surgeries without a single loss. You're exceptional, Dr. Okonkwo. I know what I am. Nadia met his gaze without flinching. I don't need a stranger to tell me. I'm not a stranger. Not anymore. Something crackled between them, dangerous, magnetic, impossible to ignore. I should go. Nadia stood. I'll have a car take you home. I don't need your car. It's 3 in the morning. It's raining. And this neighborhood isn't safe. I've been getting myself home for 31 years. I think I can manage. She walked toward the exit, hyper-aware of his presence behind her. Dr. Okonkwo. She paused at the door. You do belong here, he said quietly. Don't let anyone make you believe otherwise. The next morning, Nadia arrived at her locker to find a single white orchid with a card that simply read, For the woman who brings people back from death. No signature. None needed. She threw it away. It was replaced by lunch. This time, an entire orchid plant sat on her desk in the resident's office, along with a handwritten note. Dinner, tonight, 7 p.m. The address is on the back. Nadia crumpled the note and tossed it in the trash. By the end of her shift, a sleek black car waited outside the hospital entrance. The driver bowed respectfully. Mr. Kang sent me. Tell Mr. Kang I have my own transportation. She walked past the car to the subway station, her heart hammering against her ribs. This was ridiculous. He was ridiculous. A dangerous man used to getting everything he wanted, probably entertained by her resistance. She would not be entertainment. A few days later, Nadia checked on Ti-Yoon, who was recovering remarkably well. The younger Kang brother was nothing like his sibling, warm, open, with an easy smile that crinkled his eyes. You saved my life, he said. Minho hasn't stopped talking about you. Nadia checked his vitals. Your brother shouldn't waste his time. He never wastes time. That's what makes this interesting. Ti-Yoon grinned. He's obsessed. I've never seen him like this. I'm not interested in being anyone's obsession. That's exactly why he can't stop thinking about you. Nadia ignored the flutter in her stomach and moved on to her next patient. That evening she emerged from the hospital to find Min-ho himself leaning against the black car, arms crossed, looking like sin personified in the amber streetlight. You're stalking me. I'm waiting for you. There's a difference. Not from my perspective. She walked past him. He fell into step beside her, matching her pace effortlessly despite his expensive shoes. One dinner. No. One conversation. We're having one right now. A real conversation. Without you running away. She stopped, spinning to face him. I'm not running. I'm choosing. And I choose not to get involved with dangerous men who think they can buy anything they want. What makes you think I'm dangerous? Nadia laughed, a genuine sound that surprised them both. Mr. Kang, I'm a surgeon. I read bodies for a living. You move like a predator. You speak like someone who's never heard the word no. And those men who follow you everywhere, they're not businessmen. Min-ho's expression shifted, impressed, perhaps, or intrigued. You're right, he admitted. I am dangerous, to my enemies. And what am I? His eyes darkened with something that made her core tighten. You're something I haven't figured out yet, and that terrifies me more than anything has in years. The admission cracked something in Nadia's defenses. She'd expected arrogance, persistence, charm, not honesty, not vulnerability. 1 coffee, she heard herself say. 20 minutes, and then you leave me alone. Agreed. 20 minutes became 2 hours. They sat in a tiny cafe near the hospital, rain streaming down the windows, as Nadia found herself talking more openly than she had in years. About her childhood in Atlanta, her father's death when she was 17, the scholarships that saved her, the professors who believed in her. Min-ho listened with complete attention. He asked questions that showed he was actually hearing her, not just waiting for his turn to speak. Why cardiac surgery? He asked. My father died of a heart attack. Nadia traced the rim of her coffee cup. I was with him. I watched the paramedics try to save him. They failed. She met Min-ho's eyes. I decided I would never fail, not if there was any way to succeed. And you haven't. 37 surgeries, 37 survivors. She smiled slightly. Including your brother. Including my brother. Min-ho's voice was soft. You've given me a gift I can never repay, Nadia. It was the first time he'd used her first name. It sounded different in his accent, like something precious, something to be protected. Then stop sending me flowers, she said. Never. Stop sending cars. Absolutely not. Stop looking at me like that. Like what? Like I'm something impossible, something you've been waiting for. Min-ho reached across the table. His fingers brushed hers barely a touch, but electricity shot up her arm. You are impossible, he murmured. And I have been waiting for you. I just didn't know it until 3 days ago. Nadia pulled her hand back, her heart racing. I should go. I'll drive you. No. Then I'll watch until you're safely in a taxi. That's not... She stopped, seeing the genuine concern in his eyes. No one had looked at her like that in years. Like her safety was the most important thing in the world. Fine. The following morning, everything changed. Nadia entered the hospital to find chaos. Police officers swarmed the lobby. Nurses whispered in clusters. And when she reached the cardiac ward, she understood why. Ti-yoon's room was empty. What happened? She demanded of the nearest nurse. They took him. The young woman's face was pale with terror. Men with guns. They said they were transferring him, but Nadia's blood ran cold. She grabbed her phone and dialed the number she'd programmed in last night against her better judgment. Min-ho answered on the first ring. Where is my brother? I don't know. I just arrived. Stay there. His voice was ice and fire, barely controlled rage. Don't move. Don't speak to anyone. I'm coming. He arrived in 12 minutes with an army. Not literally, but the men who swept through the hospital moved with military precision. Min-ho strode through them like a general, his face carved from stone, his eyes burning with a fury that made everyone step back. The cameras, he barked at one of his men. Pull all footage from the last 4 hours. Every exit, every stairwell. Already done, sir. They left through the service entrance. 3 vehicles. We're tracking now. Min-ho turned to Nadia. His expression softened almost imperceptibly. Are you all right? I'm fine, but Ti-yoon, he's still recovering. If they stress his heart, I know. Min-ho's jaw tightened. That's why they took him. To get to me. Who? Enemies. The kind that don't stop until they're stopped. An hour later, Nadia found herself in a place she'd never expected: Min-ho's headquarters. The building appeared to be a legitimate corporation from the outside, but the basement revealed a different reality. Banks of monitors. Armed men. a command center that would rival any military installation. "You should have taken me home," she said. "You're safer here." Min-ho didn't look up from the screens. "They know about you now. Know what about me? That you saved Ti-yoon, that you matter." "I don't matter. I'm just his doctor." Min-ho finally turned, and the intensity in his eyes stole her breath. "You matter," he said quietly. "To me, and that makes you a target." Before Nadia could process those words, one of his men shouted, "We've got a location." The next 6 hours were a blur. Nadia insisted on coming. Ti-yoon would need medical attention the moment he was rescued. Min-ho refused, argued, commanded. She stood her ground. "I've operated on dying men for 18 hours straight," she told him. "I've held hearts in my hands. I don't break." Something flickered in his eyes. Respect, desire, fear for her safety warring with admiration for her strength. "Stay behind me," he finally said, "no matter what." The warehouse where they held Ti-yoon was in an industrial district outside the city. Nadia waited in an armored vehicle while Min-ho and his men breached the building. She heard gunshots, shouts, the sounds of controlled violence, then silence. The door opened. Min-ho carried his brother in his arms, blood staining his shirt but not his own. "He's alive," he said. "Barely." Nadia moved on instinct. She took command of the situation, directing Min-ho's men to create a makeshift surgical space, using supplies she'd grabbed from the hospital. "His heart rate is dropping," she said. "They administered something probably to sedate him, but it's affecting his cardiac function. I need to stabilize him before we can move him." She worked for 40 minutes in the back of the armored vehicle. Min-ho crouched beside her, following her every instruction without question. When Ti-yoon's vitals finally stabilized, Nadia sat back, trembling with exhaustion and adrenaline. "You saved him again," Min-ho said. His voice cracked slightly, the first real emotion she'd heard from him since this began. "That's my job." "No." He caught her hand, blood and all. "That's who you are." A few days later, with Ti-yoon safely recovered in Min-ho's private medical facility, Nadia tried to return to her normal life. It proved impossible. She found herself looking for Min-ho everywhere, in the hospital corridors, outside her apartment, at the cafe where they'd had their first real conversation. He gave her space. But the flowers never stopped. Each day, a new arrangement appeared at her desk with notes that grew progressively more revealing. "I missed your voice today. Watched a surgery documentary. Thought of you the entire time. My mother asked about you. I told her you were the most remarkable woman I've ever met." That evening, Nadia showed up at his building unannounced. The security guards clearly knew who she was. They escorted her up immediately. Min-ho opened the door himself, still wearing his work clothes. His tie loosened, surprise and hope warring on his face. "The flowers have to stop," she said. "Okay, the notes have to stop. Whatever you want. You have to stop making me think about you every second of the day." His breath caught. "That one might be difficult." She stepped closer. "This is insane. We barely know each other. You're whoever you are, and I'm a surgeon who doesn't have time for—" He kissed her. Not demanding, not aggressive. Just soft and searching and achingly tender, the kiss of a man who'd been waiting his whole life and was terrified this moment might shatter if he moved too fast. Nadia melted into him despite herself. Her hands found his chest, feeling his heart hammer against her palms. His arms wrapped around her waist, pulling her closer, closer still. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, she saw tears in his eyes. "I never believed in this," he whispered. "Love at first sight, destiny, any of it. I thought it was weakness. But then I saw you standing in that corridor, facing down my mother, refusing to break. And something inside me recognized you, like I'd been looking for you without knowing it. Min-ho, I don't deserve you. I know what I am, what I've done. But I will spend every day of my life trying to be worthy of you, Nadia. If you'll let me." She kissed him again. That night, in the safety of his penthouse, with the city lights glittering through floor-to-ceiling windows, they finally stopped fighting what had been building between them. They came together in a collision of relief and revelation, tenderness and passion, whispered confessions and promises made without words. When Nadia woke the next morning, the bed beside her was empty. Cold panic gripped her chest. Of course he was gone. What had she expected? A man like that, someone who could have anyone, why would he stay? She dressed quickly, fighting tears, her old wounds tearing open. Abandoned again, used again. She should have known better. She was heading for the door when it opened. Min-ho stood there holding a tray of breakfast coffee, fresh fruit, what looked like handmade pastries. "Where are you going?" "I thought—" She stopped. "You weren't here." Understanding dawned on his face. He set down the tray and crossed to her in 3 strides, taking her face in his hands. "I'm not going anywhere," he said fiercely. "Not ever. I woke up early to make you breakfast. I was gone for 20 minutes, Nadia. 20 minutes. His eyes bored into hers. "I don't know who hurt you before, but I will spend the rest of my life proving that I'm not them." By the end of the week, news of their relationship had leaked. The hospital board called Nadia in for a meeting. Concerned donors. Questions about conflicts of interest. Rumors about how she'd really gotten her fellowship. The racism she'd faced before amplified tenfold. Someone started an online campaign questioning her credentials. Anonymous complaints flooded the hospital's inbox. She came home to find Min-ho in her apartment. She'd given him a key reading something on his phone with an expression that could have frozen fire. "You've seen it," she said. "I've handled it. Min-ho, you can't just... The person who started the campaign is one of the rival surgeons you beat out for your fellowship. He's currently under investigation for medical malpractice. The complaints have been traced to a single IP address belonging to one of my mother's former social acquaintances. She's being dealt with." Nadia sat down heavily. "I can fight my own battles. I know." He knelt before her, taking her hands. "But you don't have to anymore. Your battles are my battles now. Your enemies are my enemies. Your pain is my pain." He kissed her knuckles. "When will you understand that?" A few days later, she finally met Mrs. Kang again. The older woman had requested the meeting, and Nadia agreed against Min-ho's wishes. They sat in a private room at the hospital. Mrs. Kang looked older than she had weeks ago, something broken behind her carefully maintained facade. "I owe you more than an apology," Mrs. Kang said quietly. "You saved both my sons, Ti-yoon in surgery, and Min-ho." She paused. "He was dying before he met you, not physically, but inside, cold, closed off, unreachable. He's not unreachable, not anymore." Mrs. Kang's eyes glistened. "Because of you. I understand why you reacted the way you did," Nadia said carefully. "I don't agree with it, but I understand that fear makes people cruel. I was more than cruel. I was evil." Mrs. Kang bowed her head. "In my country, there is shame in admitting error, but there is greater shame in failing to acknowledge the truth. You are extraordinary, Dr. Okonkwo, and I am grateful, truly grateful, that my son found you." That night, Min-ho took Nadia to the rooftop of his building. The entire space had been transformed, thousands of white lights, a string quartet playing softly, and a table set for 2 overlooking the glittering Seoul skyline. "What is this?" "A proper date." He smiled a real smile, not the controlled expressions he showed the world. "You said I never properly took you to dinner. You were right." They ate. They laughed. They talked about futures and fears and all the things they'd been too guarded to discuss before. Then Min-ho stood and crossed to her side of the table. He knelt. Nadia's heart stopped. "I was going to wait," he said. "Another month, maybe 2. I didn't want to frighten you with how much I feel, but life is short. I've seen how quickly it can be taken away." He pulled out a ring, simple, elegant, a single perfect diamond that caught the light like captured starfire. "I don't want to wait another day without knowing you'll be mine forever." "Min-ho! Marry me, Nadia. Let me spend the rest of my life showing you what love looks like. Let me protect you, cherish you, stand beside you through every battle. Let me give you the family you deserve." Tears streamed down her face. Yes, he slid the ring onto her finger and kissed her with everything he had, every word he didn't know how to say, every promise he intended to keep. 3 months later, they married in a ceremony that defied expectations. Not a grand affair for society pages, but an intimate gathering on a private beach. Nadia's mother and sister from Atlanta, Ti-yoon standing as best man, a small circle of genuine friends. Nadia wore white silk that flowed around her curves like water. Min-ho looked at her as if she'd hung the moon and stars. When they exchanged vows, there wasn't a dry eye present. "I was lost before I found you," he said. "I didn't know what I was looking for, but the moment I saw you standing your ground, refusing to break, I knew. You were my home, my heart, my everything." A year later, in the private room of Seoul's best hospital, Nadia held their daughter for the first time. Min-ho sat beside her, tears streaming openly down his face as he looked at his girls, his family, his world. "She has your eyes," he whispered, "and your stubbornness. Then she'll be unstoppable." He kissed Nadia's forehead, then the baby's. "My girls, my whole heart." The nurses smiled at each other. They'd never seen the infamous Kang Min-ho like this, soft, vulnerable, completely undone by love. But Nadia had always known. Beneath the danger, Beneath the power, beneath the walls he'd built to survive there had always been this. A man capable of extraordinary love. She'd just been the first person brave enough to find it. Outside the hospital room, through the window, Seoul glittered like a promise. A city of millions, full of people finding their way to each other. And in that room, one family rested together, living proof that love could conquer anything. Every judgment, every danger, every fear. Love won. Love always wins. If this story wrapped around your heart and refused to let go, you're exactly where you belong. Hit that subscribe button, drop your thoughts in the comments, and share this with someone who needs to believe in impossible love. More stories are coming, stories of danger, desire, and devotion that will keep you coming back. Subscribe now so you don't miss a single heartbeat. Until next time, beautiful souls.